After the ratification of the 19th Amendment, the women's movement split into two main groups: the National League of Women Voters, which supported laws to protect women and children, and the National Women's Party, which opposed protective legislation for women. And that split eventually led to the weakening of the movement. During World War II, women were integral, or in other words, a necessity for the workforce, as majority of the country's men were fighting in war. However, many of them lost their jobs due to the returning men. Even so, 40% of the nation's workforce in 1960 consisted of women. Just as Socrates encouraged his fellow Athenians to question their beliefs, Betty Friedan pushed women to challenge the socially accepted role of women. In her book, The Feminine Mystique, which some may consider a reviver of the women's movement, she puts forth the stresses of being a housewife, which most women seemed too hesitant to discuss about. By 1950, 60% of women aged 18 to 24 were married, compared to 24% in 1940. In the peak of birth rates, 1957, there were 123 births per 1,000 women. The birth rate had literally doubled between 1940 and 1960. Grocery shopping, cleaning, and submitting to their husbands. Being a housewife is not as simple as many may think. Women were distressed and unhappy with their extremely routine lives, and felt that seeing psychiatrists was, quote-unquote, as self-indulgent as paying someone good money to talk about myself. Women of the working class felt as though they were misrepresented in the feminine mystique, because most women were already workers and wished to have the easy life of housewives. Black women had less money than white women because through the 1950s, the average black man would receive 60% of the average white man's wages.
There are many events that happened during the feminist movement. One event was when FDA approved a birth control pill. It started when Margaret Sanger and her sister opened her first birth control clinic in 1916. This was against the Comstock Act that banned contraceptive and contraceptive information. This caused Margaret to be jailed for 30 days. However, during those 10 days it was open, there were more than 500 women asking and looking for more information on the birth control pill. In 1953, Margaret went to Dr. Gregory Gordon Pincus to help develop birth control pills. Dr. Pincus worked with the company GD Serial and created a birth control pill known as Envoid. FDA saw how important it is to treat menstrual disorder and a huge demand for it and approved it in 1960. The President's Commission on the Status of Women. It was established by President Kennedy on December 14, 1961. He put Eleanor Roosevelt as the chair of the commission. It was to explore women's rights and investigate women's equality in education, workplace, and under law. The final report by the Status of Women was published on October 1963. The Equal Pay of 1963 prohibits sex-based wage discrimination of men and women in state establishments who perform similar jobs. It went into effect on June 11, 1964. However, it was not enforced by federal agencies, so men and women continued to receive a lower wage than men. It was hard to enforce because it's hard to interpret what constitutes equal offer, skill, and responsibility. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 that proposed 1963 that went into effect on July 2, 1964, increased the number of women in the workforce because one of its laws was to prohibit discrimination or segregation in employment by race, sex, color, religion, and national origin. It also created the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in 1964. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's goal is to eliminate unlawful employment discrimination. It was started on July 2, 1965. Its mission is to eliminate unlawful employment discrimination. It is to investigate discrimination complaints, and if they are true and a Boston worker refuses to compromise, it will bring the case to federal court. During that time, Franklin D. Roosevelt Jr. was the head of EEOC. The National Organization for Women, founded in 1966, influenced by Betty Friedan and her book The Feminine Mystique, it was established after the Third National Conference of Commission on the Status of Women in Washington, D.C. Many delegates at the conference wanted an Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to end sex discrimination in employment. However, they were told they had no authority to do that. This led to the National Organization for Women.
The Miss American pageant protest took place in 1968 at Atlantic City. The protest was organized by New York radical women. Although the National Organization for Women did not openly support this, the protest was one of the first to grab media's attention and bring national attention to the emerging women's liberation movement. During the protest, one of the most tension-grabbing part was when the protesters threw lipstick, girdles, and other instruments into a trash can that they labeled Freedom Trash Can. This represented the chains that tied them to beauty standards that men disliked, and they were throwing them away. After this protest, the women's movement gained momentum, and the media increasingly took it seriously. The Society for Humane Abortion. In September 1969, it took part in the first Women's Coalition. Overall, the coalition agreed to 9 terms, and one of the terms was abolishing all penalties for abortion. The Society for Humane Abortion also assisted women in getting abortions. The anti-rape movement. So in 1974, the National Organization for Women was not happy about just working with the local institution about this problem, so they took this into the streets. On the 55th anniversary of the women's suffrage, around 35 members of the National Organization for Women protested rape in their cities. During the protests, many were chanting "Stop Rape Now," and others were holding slogans. The National Organization for Women helped raise political awareness about rape and got the police department to form a comprehensive rape crisis program and a sex crime squad. The National Organization established the city's first crime crisis hotline. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974. This was one of many acts to include women. This act made it unlawful for any creditor to discriminate against any consumer on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, age, or because they received public assistance. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978. This basically prohibits sex discrimination on the basis of pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. Under this act, employers cannot refuse to hire pregnant women, and the pregnant women are allowed to have pregnancy and maternity leave and many other benefits.